So today I'll be explaining about neural control and coordination. So in neural control and coordination, I'll be explaining about knee-jerk reflex. First, you should know knee-jerk reflex is an example of a reflex action. And what is reflex action? Is sudden response to a stimulus without conscious effort, means without thinking, involving a part of CNS, that is mainly spinal cord. So therefore sudden response to a peripheral nervous stimulus without conscious effort means without thinking, that means suddenly without thinking, involving a part of CNS. In majority of the reflex actions, the center is spinal cord. In very few of the reflex actions, the center can be brain, like medulla oblongata, which is responsible for vomiting reflexes. Now today I'll be explaining about knee jerk reflex. Now knee jerk reflex means, what happens in knee jerk reflex? If the knee is hit with a hammer, then the leg will move forward suddenly. This type of reflex is called as knee jerk reflex. So I'll start with what are the components of knee jerk reflex and the reflex arc. Now first, hammer is hit to the knee. When hammer is hit to the knee, remember the hammer won't be hit onto the knee itself, it will be hit just below the knee where the tendon is present. This will cause the tendon to slightly stretch, and this stretch sensation is detected by sensory receptors. Now the stretch sensations will be detected here in the muscles, because in the muscles there are special receptors called as muscle spindles. Now muscle spindles are sensory receptors that detects the stretch in tendons. So here the hammer is hit, and the sensory receptors called muscle spindles present in the skeletal muscle, they'll detect the stretch in tendon and send impulses through a nerve called as sensory neuron. It is also called efferent neuron. The impulse from the efferent neuron reaches to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord the impulse will reach to called motor neuron. Understand? This motor neuron is also called efferent neuron. This motor neuron finally makes the quadriceps muscles to contract, and due to contraction of quadriceps muscles, the leg will be suddenly moving forward. So this is nothing but the pathway in which impulses flow in the knee jerk reflex, and how it will bring about sudden movement of leg in one direction without conscious efforts. Then what are the components of it? What are the components? First, when the knee is hit, the that sensation is sensed by the sensory receptor called muscle spindle. So muscle spindle is a component of knee jerk reflex. Now second is that impulse from muscle spindles is taken by afferent neuron, which is also called a sensory neuron, and from there the impulse reaches to spinal cord where efferent neuron synapses or joins with efferent neuron. So impulse will now pass to efferent neuron. Efferent neuron is also called motor neuron, and efferent neuron sends that impulse to finally muscle called as quadriceps muscle. This muscle is also called quadriceps muscle. It is also called effector. The final impulse, finally the action is finally brought about by muscles. So because of contraction of this quadriceps muscles, the leg is going to move forward. So these are nothing but components of the reflex arc. All the pathway in which the nerve impulse flows, those are nothing but components of the reflex arc. Reflex. Another point you should know in knee-jerk reflexes, for for the quadriceps muscles to perform its function, this muscle should be unopposed. That means the opposite muscle should be in a relaxed state. That opposite muscle is hamstring. And for relaxation of opposite muscles, interneurons are necessary. So this completes.